Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to Meetup number 10 for Agentics Foundation chapter here in Serbia. So this is our Meetup number 10. Today is March 24th, 2026, and we will continue where we left in our previous meetup. And that was working on the community social network application that we started working on the second or third meetup, so it was a long time ago. And we are now almost close to running the front end and back end and seeing some results of what agents have been doing. So I will give quick intro for those that are here first time. My tech stack, how I'm working and what I'm demoing here. I'm running Visual Studio Code instance using DevPod and Docker Desktop in order to run the safe environment with limited resources for my agents to run in. I use Claude Code with max subscription account in order to be able to work on a couple of projects in parallel. And I just installed the latest version before the start of this meetup. After that, for working with this project, I'm using previously Claude Flow, now RuFlow, but I didn't install the new version as there were no new versions since last 2 weeks. But I know that I was working on some new versions. So I didn't install as npm package Agentic UI Fleet latest, and we are now using version 387. I did initiate it in the project, so we don't need to wait in order to update some agents and skills. So we will be ready to start working on the project where we stopped last time. And we were working on implementing a community social network MVP based on the implementation plan. So maybe I can give a quick overview of we didn't update this, so this needs to be updated with the recent progress. I will now start Claude Code in dangerously skip permission mode. I have created alias for that, so I don't need to type every time Claude dash dash dangerous skip permission. And I have added that to my bash RC, so maybe I can show even how that looks like for those that are first time here. So you can just nano V or your editor of choice in terminal and edit in this case, I'm using Linux instance in this Visual Studio Code virtual machine. So have bash RC. If you're working on the Mac, you will edit like a ZHR, I think, file. If you're working on the native Linux, probably just bash or on Windows, depending where you are, you just add alias, in this case DSP, to shorten this command. Okay, so DSP and wait, we were working on something, so let me say with -c, if you pass -c, it should continue with the last session that you were running. So let's see if it will find the last session we were working on last time, 2 weeks ago. There it is. So we can see that, okay, push failed because I was not authenticated. I did authenticated and push that in the end, but we finish now the phase 3. And in the original document, and if we take a look, it says phase 1 mostly complete and it didn't touch the others. So let me just update implementation plan. So with that, you can add any documents or whatever with the progress. And then I will ask it to use, brutal honesty review skill to analyze what the agents did in the previous run, because this is my flow. When I release the agent swarm to work on phase based on the plan, when the phase is finished or when agents report the phase finished, I usually do one or multiple loops of doing the review depending on what this skill will find. So to analyze what was implemented and integrated compared to what is claimed. This skill is part of the agentic QE fleet. So when you AQE init in your project, the fleet, one of the skills will be brutal honesty that will invoke a number of, I didn't ask it now to do the like ultra honesty. Let's see which level it will decide to work on, because there are different levels it can apply on. I assume it will be just basic level. So how I know that the skill was invoked, you need to see this in terminal. So for proper invocation, I now explicitly ask for the skill using the slash and the name of the skill, but I could just ask, perform a brutal review of what was done compared to what, and the trigger words will, so the Claude would find which skill to use based on the trigger words used in the prompt. Let me show you what the skill does for those that are first time here. For those that are not first time here, they are already familiar with this, but there are new faces here. So in .Claude skills, you can find the skill definition. And this skill really like what? Okay, let's show everything related to this skill, because skills in the agentic quality engineering fleet are created with, let's say, best practices suggested by Anthropic and some other resources. But I did something more. I implemented something that I call trust tiers. So each skill can be different level of trust, and it will invoke different types of validations, or you can invoke different types of validations on your skill to check the behavior of the skill as the new models are being released. I can show that more later. So what does this skill do? As it's combining Linus Torvalds, precision, Gordon Ramsay standards, and James Bach bullshit detection. Excuse my French. So for those that are from quality assurance and quality engineering world, they know that James Bach is the biggest critic. Those from development world know that Linus Torvalds is one of the biggest critics of quality. And I don't know how Gordon Ramsay ended up here, probably because I love eating and cuisine, but there are some valuable information provided when you combine like a trust of three brains to do the analysis of what agents did. So let's see what I don't know, which of these levels it used, but I really love, when it says like, oh, okay, use only with the senior engineers and don't use with the junior devs or demoralized teams, because it will, the reports can be really harsh. So let's see. Okay, it's already finding some of the things. So any questions from anybody while we are waiting on the skill to evaluate what was done in the previous phases of implementation before we proceed? Okay, it's almost done. So let's read what it found, what was done okay, and what was not done okay. What should we fix before we proceed with the next phase? And we, as humans, need to now apply our judgment to see if what was found is really relevant to the project. So let's see, find it critical. Notification mappers, back, hack instead of recasting. Okay. Okay. Okay, so looks like the new methods were not reused after some refactoring, zero caching in any repository. Reference the cache service. Okay, so what this skill usually surfaces are missing integrations between the components that were developed. So this is really a useful thing to do. Okay, that's the gap. Then we have zero optimistic locking tests. Okay, that's just the quality gate. Shared infrastructure, zero tests. So we have missing tests. Yeah, token inconsistencies. Okay, so, and let's see. Now it updated the progress. Okay, did it after the, so we have, let's see where we are. Give me a second to check now how the progress looks like here. So we are at 85% complete of the phase 3. So let's ask it. Okay. Oh, it's still updating. It still didn't finished.
I have one question.
Yes?
If you ever face the situation of never-ending loop of quality assurance, I had a lot of cases that the skills that are written like something like this, like you have to find some critical issues, high issues, medium issues and stuff. He always finds critical issues, no matter how like the real situation is. So if he cannot find critical issues, he just like hallucinates some critical issues. It is not like it works fine if you have the same context, but if you try to clear the context and run it again, like you run something like this, you have your list of issues, you fix all the issues, you run something again with clean contents, and here it goes, like another issue. And of course, like you as a human can review it and say, hey, this is something that is not true, or this is just, it can be done different ways, like we can choose this one or this one. But if you do not review it, and if you try to like reach the highest, the top possible quality by iterating over and over again, you will find that it is impossible. That at some point the quality becomes worse because
it will start mark things that are not issues as an issue. I hear you. That's why I'm not running the same skill multiple times, one after another. That's why I created like a combo. There are different skills that and agents that I'm combining in order to prevent this. So if I'm not trusting what one of the agents or this case skill, I use another one. So this is a specifically created like an arbitrary agent, and let me show you the definition for this one. That is checking really what other agents did. Okay, where is now my terminal? Okay, go back to terminal. Okay, and so this one is not looking always to find, but it's like again, a different lenses to looking through the problems. And this is what helps me, find like a finitive number of quality loops in order to get to desired level of quality that I want. Sometimes that would be also like as me as a human tester. If I wanted to go, I could think of infinite number of ways of testing an application. So especially, if we take a look at even like a calculator level applications have a significant number of combinations, and if you add complexity of modern applications on top of that, so testing extensively to 100% is not feasible and not possible with the time available. So we need to make the decisions when the quality is good enough. And for these kind of things, I'm combining different phases with different types of skills and agents to give me some quality gate scores I can use to make decisions if the code provided or delivered by agents is now good enough so I can, proceed on something else.
So you use skills within the same model to.
Yes, and sometimes different models even. So yes.
Have you ever compared this workflow with just asking the regular Claude
Yes.
without any
Yes.
skills?
Yes.
Is it better? Because it is some sort of a new problem that now exists, the over-engineering with AI. I mean, the over-engineered prompts. And I've read like a couple of articles, the same topic, and this is kind of matches with my experience. That we as developers, we tend to create really complex prompts, like scales and stuff, and trying to
confuse the model in the end, so with too much information.
Turns out that just giving the basic prompts with the basic model without any like skills or something will do the same or better than when you try to use all these fancy tools and different agents and fleets and swarms and stuff. and it just like will do the same as you just type a single prompt and use the plan.
So I tried or tested that because I'm a tester. So I tried to use like native Claude without any extensions. I tried, with the anti-gravity Gemini models. Codex, there was Atlas or no, what was, they also, no. So just the, plain codex with the starting from the same PRD to deliver some kind of MVP application. In my experience, I got best results using this stack. So Claude Code, Claude Flow, now RuFlow, and MyFleet. I was experimenting like 10 days ago or 2 weeks, like with Loki mode. So that was like now a popular one. And then I tried to build application with using that one. And I think I have somewhere even results related to that. I shared that with somebody. So it provided like only like scaffolding, a lot of scaffolding and a lot of stops and not usable. And it said it's done. It was done like after 2.5 of hour working with some interaction with me. So it finished. It says it was done like after 2.5 hours. And when I look at the code and did the analysis, okay, this cannot be run in this status. And it said it was done. Did the same experiment this weekend using RuFlow and HQ Fleet in 3 hours using like DDD, like domain-driven design and architectural decision records like we did in this application, I got finished like three of four phases in 3 hours, managed to start frontend, backend with the database behind, log in the app, and there was a couple of bugs there. Then I directed, and in the next hour, so in the 4 hours, I got like an application up and running complete. So in my experience, based on the experiments that I did, it provided much better results. Okay, now let's see. So this is now double checking what that brutal honesty review did. So let's see, because something was missed with the brutal honesty. So, okay, recalibration. I like the, okay, both critical, agreed. So several things. Okay, this is escalated, nice. Info, okay, and new things that this one found. So that's also a thing. One run, one iteration with, again, depending on the how context was clear. If you started with a clear context and did that brutal honesty, or you did that after the context was 70% filled. You will have different behavior of the skill also. So that's a thing, because when the context, and now especially, 2 weeks ago, they released like 1 million context in the Opus 4.6 model. It works okay until half of context is filled. After that, I need to, I started clearing more context more often when it goes over 50%. Yes, and it will hide, problems. So fix all the critical and high issues using a swarm of specialized agents. Shared memory. So this should now invoke, let's say, several agents. I expect coder and some tester agents for missing tests, and maybe some architect and some different agents that will be invoked based on the complexity now of all the fixes that it needs to do. So let's see what Claude Code will decide to invoke. So this was too general specification, but only a couple of trigger words. Swarm of specialized agents with shared memory and learning.
Do you ever work with the code directly, or you always work through agents?
In the last, since last year, June, I didn't write almost any line of the code. Everything was written by agents.
Okay, but do you proofread, for example?
I'm proofreading it less and less. So I did that more last year during the summer. Then summer, when we got, I think, was it Sonnet 4.5 model, when they released that one started changing the game, but this release of Opus 4.6 2 months ago completely changed the game of how code looks like when it's written. So now, not only me, but a lot of engineers are commenting that they are stopping to write code because the code gets written better than themselves. I think even Ken Beck, said something like that. And I'm following a lot of guys, Martin Fowler and others, on multiple media. I'm quite active there also, but the guys are really okay, it's now running only, it did some fixes by itself, but it started 2 coder agents, and now it will start probably a couple of more. So let's see which agents is it invoking. So this is the coder agent from Ruflow. So it's using one of his agents that is now, calling tools and have its own session. So all these sub-agents are running as subtasks inside Claude Code, and each of them has its own context window. So they're not, let's say, polluting each other's, but all of these agents are sharing the memory and learnings using the hooks defined when Claude is working inside this project. So maybe I can show also for those that are not or that are here first time. So I'm using different types of hooks for different actions that Claude Code recognize. So either pre-tool uses, so I have like a hook that will guard and check if some PII or some sensitive information is being provided or some security leaks or something like that. Then some pre-edit hooks, pre-command, pre-tasks, post-edits, post-command that are usually querying the existing patterns saved by agents while working or storing the patterns when they are finished. And that's something also that is specific to both Cloud Flow or Ruflow and my system, because I'm capturing experiences of agents as they are working, capturing memories. Okay, not there, but let's see where the patterns. There. So saving the patterns learned on the code base and then reusing them. Then there are where they okay, I have some vectors here. I did some cleanup, so I had some junk in the database, and there is a combo of things here, but for instance, the min cut system in the system that is looking at the weighted degrees. So there is a lot of stuff happening below the surface by Claude using it through the hooks, invoking the CLI commands available in the system, or even somewhere calling directly some scripts to, in this case, verify if the brain checkpoint. This is creating a backup of the SQLite database, of this database into RVF file. And the RVF file, for those that are here first time, let me show you what the RVF file is. Not here, let me find it. So row vector. So for those that are first time here, crates, I think it should be in the crates. Give me a second. RVF, there it is. So RVF is a file that is a complete cognitive container. Everything in one file: vector embeddings, LoRa adapters, GNN graph, bootable Linux microkernels. So this file can be even used on the devices. And one thing also for those that are first time here, Cognitum one. So this is the first agentic processor that uses this row vector or RVF format with ultra low power, and this is now available since or the Pi Day. It's available for orders, and yeah, this is something that I think will change completely how industry is working, because with a couple of these chips you can run your local models. So on this RVF chip, you can pack your own local model. And in this case, I'm really packing because this memory DB uses root vector on top of it. So where is the KV store? So let me show you, for instance, here. So, the whole system is vectorized. Those vectors can be exported in this RVF file, and I can share this file with anybody working on a similar project. They can import that using AQE brain import command. There is like brain export import commands, and then you can start with the, let's say, starting knowledge of somebody working on a project for a couple of months, or how depending how long they worked. So agents are still working. Okay, let's see what's happening here. Coder is working. Okay. Oh, I didn't want to stop you. Report progress. Okay, looks like all agents finished. So 16 files. Let's see what was changed. What's this? This is a strange name for file. But this is modified, so this one already existed. Okay. Okay. So I usually take a look at the diffs just to see if it didn't went completely rogue and wiped something or deleted or added something that doesn't make complete sense at all. Okay. That was like a quick scan. Let's see what was here. Okay, this just comment. And okay. Change the constant and then okay, better handling than it was. Okay, so usually like that. Just skimming it, and then let's see if tests are passing, and let's see if we can start the application, or we need to provide what's the phase 4. Let's see what's in the phase 4. So if we check the phase 4 application layer. So yeah, looks like we need application layer if we want to start the app. So we cannot start it, but I think we can initiate now swarms, and these phases should be finished during even our session if this agent finished. Okay, it's running tests. So while this one is running tests, I can start another session and ask it to continue with the rest of the phases. So start a swarm of specialized agents. First, read, implement, read. So I need to ground the agent first. As this is clean context, I'm starting from scratch. I need to first say from where we want to start. Read started to work on phases after. So phases 4 and after. Implement, integrate, verify, repeat until done, report when finished. Let's see how this one will work. Okay, this one is still running tests, verifying what was done. Let's see how this one will invoke the new swarm. Questions?
Does it ever happen what with growing code base, agents starts to work worse and worse until it's unmanageable? Because what I see in social network now, a lot of people who started working that way, not looking at the code and just generating a lot of agentic code, now they get some unmanageable mess which can't neither agents neither people could work with.
So that's why I have a number of these quality gates and review things. Doing the loops of iterations and optimizations. So I'm just showing a part of here of all the let's say steps I'm taking in order to make the application that is intended for production use to be. But look, so at the end, it will not matter anymore if the code is spaghetti and it's not maintainable, because it will be easily rewritten. What will be important is good specifications, good requirements, good understandings of the problems that we are trying to solve with the application. That level needs to be improved and maintained more than the code itself.
Yeah.
As code generation now is happening, so I regenerated one app now like in less than 4 hours. So if I would work on that kind of application a year ago, it would take me 3 to 4 months to do it manually.
Yeah, no.
So the level of abstractions are changing, and as we stopped 40 years looking at the assembler code, and when we got like layer 2 and with layer 4 IDs, we now got autocomplete in things. So that was 2 years ago, and most of the developers are still in that co-pilot mode where you're just allowing agents. Those are now levels of adoption of in the AI. So if you allow only your agent to work as a autocomplete thing, suggesting edits and maybe suggesting functions as you type, or finishing functions or something like that, that's just a basic usage, and you're not getting the full value of orchestrating swarms of agents. As my game changed when I started orchestrating multiple agents working in parallel, because they're sharing memories as they're working. There is an emergent behavior happening that single-threaded agents cannot achieve with their limited context and context routes. And joining Agentics Foundation and their Vibecast and AI hacker spaces that are happening regularly on every Thursday and Friday, looking how guys are using these tools, I started experimenting. So this was like, okay, let me try. I, as a tester, I needed to experiment to see. And I was already using single-threaded. And that moment, there was not even Claude Code. So Klein, Root Code, some extensions like coding agents inside your IDE to help. I developed like rewrote the complete automation framework for my previous company in 4 weeks. Oh, okay. So now we have 9 agents working in parallel, and you will see the speed at which the agents will finish this phase work.
Could you give like a top 10 list of most useful skills and sub-agents from AQB?
Depends on your context, but those that are like that I'm often use as we are looking at the SDLC like from the beginning. So we get requirements. When I get requirements, I will either use QE requirements validator agent. That's like a first thing for simple projects and simple requirements. But for more complex analysis, for something that you are intended for the, let's say, enterprise level systems, my friend Lalit created swarms or skills that are implemented his, let's say, framework that he developed before Agentic World. Of course, this is testing framework called Quality Conscious Software Delivery, QCSD. And he was Lalit Bamare. He used that framework on projects all over. He works for Accenture. He is their advisor for Accenture. So he developed a set of skills that can cover again the whole SDLC. So first is ideation, then you have refinement, then you have development swarm, production swarm, and then or CI/CD if you need to. So that's like a combo of 5 skills that are covering really, everything from shift left to shift right if you need. So that's like a condensed combination of all the agents that I already have created previously. So if you see, each of them uses, let's say, different agents for different types of tasks depending on the complexity of the application that they are evaluating. So that's also different things will be triggered depending of what your application has. So what are the parts of your application? So if there are some rules, enforcements, prohibited behavior and things, but I would start from these 5. So those are like a combo skills, let's call it like that are combining different sets to cover different areas in the SDLC. But reading those skills, you can check which agents they are using. But from beginning, like QE requirements, where it is. Yeah, this one. That's the first one that I'm using. From that, I will sometimes jump in, so those that are from the testing world, to apply heuristic testing software methodology developed by James Bach and Michael Bolton, and again apply their heuristics, in this case SVDPO, and analyze structure, function, data, so different areas related to the project itself, or in this case product, that are giving me nice information about the state of project. And this can be used again in different phases of your project. So yeah, when I'm doing changes on the existing code, like I'm working with my Agentic QE fleet and maintaining, I will often use regression analyzer to check the diff between the changes that I did, compare with the previous release. So, look at the previous release, compare what we did in between, and give me a regression risk analysis if we are, if we have high risk, if we have medium risk, or what's the level of risk to the changes that we just introduced. So I can decide if I need to run more tests or add more tests, or what should be my next action. Okay, these agents are burning tokens. So 9 agents working in parallel. Yes?
Yeah, quick more practical question. How fast this setup your tokens? is dollars for
Yeah, I get that question often. So as I have a Mac subscription, so I have a limit on a daily or a weekly basis. So let's check what's my limit right now, because this one finished here. So that's the usage, right? Usage. This is that dollar amount that you see in lower right corner would be if I would call directly API for Opus 4.6. So that's estimated cost if I would call API calls. So they are burning tokens. It's not that, but I'm burning only my sessions or limits. So my next limit is in 3 days. So I was working, so I didn't spend even 25% of the models working with this account for the last 4 days, right? On one big project and one small project. And by using Cloudflow and RuleFlow.
This section is from the beginning of this tree.
Yes. Session is now, 20% used. Yeah.
Like you could work for like 4 hours straight before going dead.
Yes. It will reset every 5 hours. It will reset until I reach the weekly. That's the one that I need to look for. So when the weekly is closing by, then I need to switch models. So I'm usually then either using some of the wrappers around Claude Code, like Clasp or Cloudish, that will give me a possibility to use Claude with either Open Router or some other models. But there is a configuration you can use. I have a subscription, for instance, for ZAI that provides GLM models. With recent GLM 5 model, that's also like SPAR or like Sonnet 4.6 model right now. So when I'm reaching the limits, then I'm switching. And in the config, like in .cloud settings JSON, there is like in root of your, let's say, environment in one file, there are a couple of, well, let me see. I think I even shared that.
Session limits is when I'm working with translations. When you need to translate them.
Spends more. Huh? So here, so if you want to change anthropic models for some cheaper alternatives, you can edit Claude config file and put, okay, you need account, you need an API token, or you can use QN models through Alibaba coding plan, for instance. So I'm experimenting also, and I'm testing also to see how my fleet is behaving with different models. So let me check one of my guests. I think I shared this. Cross-model analysis, this one. So 2 weeks ago, I compared how my QE fleet behaves inside Claude Code, but with different models. So I run first with the Opus 4.6, that's the default one. Then I put GLM 5 and then try with the QN 3.5. QN, really, did lousy. I don't know why. Bad day. That day, I expected more because a lot of people online are sharing like that model is really good. Maybe this one was, having a bad day then, or yes, 3.5. But I don't know, what was the model at that moment, how many billion tokens, if you ask that. So I'm not, if it's that 32 billion or 20 billion or what models they have, I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah.
4.6 distillation into.
Yeah, that's also a thing. So
Easily.
I don't know who was watching the number of files changed. So we had 16 before I started this swarm of 9 agents. So in 15 minutes or 10 minutes, as we are talking, they added 90 files or more now. So the number of files is constantly being increased as they are working on, let's see what they are working now, adding admin modules, community commands, okay. DTOs for community, okay. Content commands, DTOs, identity commands, controllers, DTOs, nice. So yeah. Who wants to take a look at code? I say, oh, you can always take a look at the code later for those that, but I'm trying to learn to drive without hands. This is a thing. The self-driving cars, they're not that much here in Serbia right now. But whoever owns Tesla, or I tried that on the road, like test driving the Hyundai or new Toyotas that that lane assist thing that assists, and that was like most of me releasing the drive still, but let's see. In a couple of years, I think if you were if agents are driving you, will be more safer than humans driving you. That's my at least opinion. But let's see.
Speaking about maintainability,
Yes.
I looked at files just and
Structure.
I don't think they are separated into microservices. It looks like one big block of application, and I think that's potential problematic architecture, because if you have a separate microservices and each one is tested and working successfully, then complex is not a problem. But if it's one single app which is tied together, when eventually agents will be unable to handle it.
But it's not one, and it's using domain-driven approach.
But yeah, I understand.
Okay.
It's using domain-driven, but
a modular approach. So
it's modular, but it's not microservices. So we're still
no, because there is no need for microservices for this type of MVP application. It's overkill, at least in my opinion. As this needs like a simple backend, front end, and database to store the data, and that's it.
Just okay, the question. Do you have agents which could help you make microservices if
yes,
it's complex?
yes, of course. But that's the architecture that you're defining. So let's go back like a step back, because you were not in the previous. So that's part of this. So you define the architecture of your application. So this was what we decided to go with. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is the decision, and this is the structure that we decided to go, and NX config, and this is the alternatives that were considered. So that's why I'm using the DDD approach, so domain-driven design and architectural decision records, in order to track this later. And this gives agents really good grounding not to create that much slop around the domains defined. So when they are working in a certain domain constraint, they will not create slop outside of it. And that's a common problem when you are not using these kind of approaches. Agents have a tendency to drift away from the original task as the context is getting filled. And ADR documents, after I clear context and the implementation plan itself created using the goal planner agent here, provides like a step-by-step description. So if we take a look at how the phases were planned and how the whole dependency of the structure that needs to happen was created before agents started working on, I can always interrupt in a certain phase and see what was done so far. And that's that, at least for me, this kind of approach provided best results so far. Questions? Yes?
Can the agent skill sets, how do you, let's say, evolve the agent skill sets? Do you do it by trial and error? Do you do it by copying skill sets from someone else from the community that already uses it, or is it all depending on the structure and framework that the project we want to implement and achieve?
Great question. And the answer is I have some mechanisms in the AQE fleet that help my skills evolve, but I'm reusing the patterns that they collected or agents collected while they were executing to feed back into what should be changed skills. Not only that, but I'm looking at what community or globally big players are sharing good practices. So recently I did a major rework of skills by using again latest reports from Anthropic and OpenAI of how they were using skills and they evolved their skills. So that's why I changed, for instance, in the description of the skill, I added now use for to give it like a explicit. So there are different, now already proven ways of writing skills to give you good enough results with the current models. As the models are changed, also skills also need to evolve. That's why I implemented a trust tier system, so I can evaluate the skill again after the new model is being released, or again any other model that I pull below, in order to compare the behavior of the skill and what needs to be modified. I'm not doing that, by myself. I'm instructing again agents how to do the modifications and what should be changed and updated. And I'm directing or either sources on doing the research, or I'm giving examples of things how I want to implement. So, yep, good question. More questions? Is the agents are still burning rubber? Let's see the number of files, or let's see if the Docker got killed, because that also can happen. Let's check if the Docker is alive. Oh, it's alive. Okay. But that's too low CPU for only 9 agents. Something is wrong. Okay, now back to 193. Looks like it was commenting out something. Or added something maybe to git ignore. So yeah, let's check. Yeah, we will check later. Okay. So it's still working. I will leave it. And I can close this session if I manage to close it. Now I'm... How I know that my agents are burning rubber? My laptop starts heating. So during the winter, that's a good thing. During the summer, that's a bad thing. My hand starts sweating. Okay, yeah, now probably CPU spiked more. Let's see. Oh, and for those that are not here, I use something that's called Compa Hook. Because I don't think that you get this when you're exiting your session in the classical just Claude Code native. They did it. Okay. I didn't try it. But yeah, good thing you can always. So you can use this to resume ID of a certain session if you want anything that you were doing in that environment. So if for some reason you want to stop there and continue later, you can use this to invoke it later. Okay, but what's happening? This one looks like, this one looks stuck. Let's check. Okay, now it's woke. I want to check the progress of agents. So it even started front-end foundations. So not only phase 4 tasks, but even a couple of tasks from the phase 5. Let's see, where are you? Okay, it's still writing. So this one is working for 21 minutes. I say, depending on the complexity of the module they need to work, it can, take some. What was last time it finished something in 15, 20 minutes, but it was like mostly infrastructure and scaffolding of the things. And so far it used 70 tools. But look, guys, having in mind what this agent did and what it created, and it was working on anything, in this case, admin queries related. So it spent only 49K tokens. So it's not that high consumption compared, for instance, I know one token burner, and I tried it and said, okay, no, thank you, Ralph Wiggum loop. So everybody was happy. Oh, look, mama, look, without hands, and the Ralph will do the loops itself, but that's burning tokens really a lot. So if we compare the consumption of tokens using the standard agents and some of these standard approaches, I think using specialized agents helps with less token consumptions. And not only that, but different types of tasks of different complexity will be routed to models of different complexity. So simple tasks like writing a unit test for a function that is already known, you can direct that for instance, for Haiku model. That can be directed there. Medium complexity tasks would go to the Sonnet model, and the high complexity tasks like planning and architecture, decision making, those goes to Opus model. So depends on the complexity of the task, different models will be used, and that's probably also one of the token savers when I'm looking at my usage with these tools. Okay, Control O, toggle again, escape, but don't stop. Oh, it even has 2 shells now running. So next to these 9 agents, it invokes even 2 terminals in parallel. So, and that's Claude trying to run some of the installs now to support the needs. Oh, it's installing Swagger. Oh, for APIs. Okay. Questions?
So previous sessions, do you have any recordings of?
Yes, all the previous sessions, everything is recorded and shared on Agentics Foundation Serbia channel on YouTube. And if you applied on the Luma channel or on the Luma events, you will be now on the mailing list. So I'm sending like a follow-up email after every session with the links for the repos and the tools I used and to the YouTube channel itself. So all the previous meetups except meetup number 3, because I forgot to hit the recording. But you didn't miss that much, with the number 3, because those, I would say, you can start from those starting after New Year, where we changed our approach for just using Spark to use the DDD approach. So to use the oh my God. Yeah, design driven. Yeah, that. I'm getting tired. After 7 p.m., my concentration is dropping. So you will excuse some of the miss words during the session. Any more questions? Especially from the new ones that are here for the first time. We have 10 more minutes. I will leave the agents working and it's adding more tasks. And okay. Let's see if this will explode in the end. I would say, again, depends on as this is targeting Anthropic APIs right now, and it was a number of outrages in the previous days, especially at this time. Looks like when the West Coast start working, when they start burning their OpenClaw instances or what else, then yeah.
You try to limit the number of agents running in your settings.
Yes, I'm limiting them to 15 because the dev pod instance cannot take more than that.
Yeah, it looks like 10 is 12 is
Yeah, this is now more of because of the Zoom also. Zoom is eating and the Chrome browser and there are things. Oh, let's see. So I always love to see this. So you can see the Docker it's eating its part of processor, but this is eating more. So the virtual machine, even though it's only allocated 8 gigabytes for Docker, it's reserving the full 16 giga. So yeah, but CPU is the one to observe, as that one has spikes.
What are you for?
To limit, okay, let's show that because you were not before the session. I showed to guys. So I'm using it in order to build Linux instance to run on my local Mac and to give it limits of memory to use so I can run multiple DevPod instances in parallel on Mac, and my Mac Air has 24 giga, so I can run 2 instances if I'm not on Zoom meeting or not having Google Meet running. Docker, but that's running Docker. So DevPod is just a runner that will run the Docker instance, and then Docker is serving the VS Code server for VS Code to connect to. So it is SSHing to the Docker instance. Well, this is working. Yeah. Okay. And that's how I'm containing also the agents and the blast radios, so they don't go, all over the. Okay, I trust these agents, but if I'm, working on a new code or somebody asks for some help or some open source projects are, I'm doing the evaluation or something like that, I will always run the code in the containerized environment so I can observe the ports and have the controls of the ports that it can expose. Again, in order to be able to run multiple things. This is how I limit usage so I can run 2 dev pods in parallel. If I leave only one, it will eat more memory. So now not here, sorry, where is the Docker? So if I'm always looking, it will try to eat up to 8 giga, and then it will reach its maximum, then the system will start like having hiccups, how I call that. And yeah, in this way I can observe and I can control. So if the agent and sometimes you will see the CPU really high spikes. It will even try now to take more than available 8 CPUs. So that's like, I think, some CPU burst or something like that. And then I can just stop it. I can kill the whole instance, start it from scratch, reconnect to the Claude session using that -C to connect to the session that was stopped previously and continue working where I was.
And your agents have access only to file system within Docker.
Yes. Yes.
What I think when you run agents without confirmations.
Yes. That's why I can run more easily dangerous skip permission mode. No need to watch every step they are doing. If they decide, and they decided number of times to delete database and settings files and test folder. I think even this morning, as I was working on doing some improvements for the QE fleet, at some moment I just noticed like this Git icon like went like 700 files. What happened? And then I went, so it deleted test folder completely. But okay, you deleted the whole test folder, the whole test suite. But I just deleted like run rm-rf test DOS test, but okay, that caught everything. So having it Git controlled also, like or any kind of version control on top of what agents are doing, that's how I'm also watching if they are misbehaving or deleted something that's not to be deleted. Database, because it's SQL, it's a binary file. I'm not Git tracking it, so that's why I implemented regular cron job to do the backups. And skills or Claude has in Claude MD instructions before doing any operations on DB create that backup, even though sometimes it forgets that even. So yeah, a lot of, let's say, safety mechanisms in order to keep the agents aligned. So what? I now need to check why now 14 tasks? Oh, it's doing the install and okay. But we don't need all of this running. Let's check. Maybe we can kill something. Oh, not this one. Okay. Yeah, machine is now slow. Yeah, we're closing to 15 minutes mark. I will probably stop the Zoom recording soon. Just give me a second to check what the agents, and then the off session for those that are here. Oh, it's working. Let's see how long. This one is working 40 minutes, so let's stop this one. Yeah, I just need to stop those that are running too long. Okay, this one stopped automatically. Okay, 22 tests passing, 7 tests. Okay. Okay, I will stop sharing and I will say thank you for those that joined us online and for those that will watch this recording next time. Hope you will join us in our next meetup. I plan in 2 weeks, but let's see. I will notify everybody. Have a nice evening. Stop recording.